Good evening. I'm Lou Goldstein, and welcome to another edition of Focus On. Tonight, we'll be talking about glass art, and I'm fortunate to have on my program someone who has done glass art for quite a while. Down in New Orleans, we'll be going to connect with Julie Juneau, who is a world-renowned glass artiste. She's a national treasure and has had her collection going on for quite a while, and she's had many installations, and her work is featured in many homes. So, Julie, thank you for coming to us from New Orleans and taking time out of your busy day.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here, Lou. It's always
great. Well, it's good to see you again, and I want to tell everybody about you so they know who you are. Julie made New Orleans her home in 1989. In 1995, she created Nomad Collection, and which began as an import business featuring sarongs and jewelry, and sourced from her vast worldwide travels in Mali as well as around the world, as well as her own travel photography. She has traveled extensively throughout the world, including a 2.5-year solo adventure from Dakar, Senegal to Cape Town, South Africa. This inspiring journey through 23 African countries by land made the African continent and the people, music, culture, wildlife, and geography especially dear to Julie's heart. She has started creating her own glass art in 1999. Her work is displayed in a multitude of United States and international homes and collections, including those of Sir Anthony Hopkins, Brad Pitt, Oprah Winfrey, Lou Gossett Jr., Angelina Jolie, Hoda Kotb, Dave Chappelle, Terrence Blanchard, Dustin Hoffman, and many others. Julie has been commissioned by the Louisiana Endowment for the Arts to design and create their annual Bright Lights Award since 2015. She also creates the annual awards for the American Red Cross and has done many installations nationally and internationally, and is world-renowned for her glass art. So, Julie, it's a pleasure having you on, and maybe we can talk a little bit first about how you got interested in glass art.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the lovely introduction. It's always funny to hear an introduction about yourself and think, wow, okay, who is that? That's me. So how did I get interested in glass? You know, I loved glass. I can't say that I loved it from an early age. It wasn't that, but I did always love glass. And I think that what I like about it is, you know, the mixture of fragility and then also the hardness and the smoothness. It's very sculptural, makes you want to touch it. Also catching the light, very, you know, sparkly, and refracting the light and having the light come through it. So I did like glass, and I've had glass for a long time. And I wanted to just take lessons. I met someone who gave lessons, and I wanted to take lessons, and I had to wait a while till they opened up an evening class, so that I could go and just do a class after work. And so I did. So I would leave my corporate job, and then I would rush over to this glass studio and have an hour and 15 minutes to make glass. And it is definitely, blowing glass is a slow curve. There's definitely a long curve on blowing to where you make anything that you like, especially if you're only blowing for an hour and 15 minutes a week. But I just went along because I liked it, and I finally made something that I liked, and I thought, you know, this is the time I have. This is a great artistic outlet, so I kept doing it.
Well, that's great. Now, I know you've done some traveling recently. I know this summer you did some traveling. If we could talk about that, and also the previous traveling that I talked about when you went through Senegal and Cape Town, I'd like to hear a little bit about how your travel influences your work.
Ah, okay. Yes, and you know, the glass studios in the South seem to close during July and August because it's so brutally hot. I know the ones in the North stay open, but it's become a time for me to travel and get some inspiration. So yes, this summer I hiked the Camino de Santiago, which was 500 miles from the French Pyrenees, over the Pyrenees, and then all the way to Santiago, Spain. And I did that over 25 days, and that was a journey unlike any other ones I've taken. I have never walked so far, so long, every single day. It was beautiful, and the peace and the tranquility and being alone through over the mountains, but also through the fields and through the meseta. It was just a beautiful thing, and I do always get a lot of inspiration from colors and from the forms and mixing together, and you know, the Mediterranean and Spain, all the beautiful neutral colors of the crumbling old buildings. So I took lots of photos and I started working on a little series from there. And so the Camino was very, very special. You know, I met a lot of people from all over the world and people who were on a spiritual journey. And so that was beautiful. You stay in hostels and it's a pilgrimage. So it's super cool. And then after that, my kind of carrot on the end of the stick was going to the Mediterranean. And that for me is easy. You can see some of the glass behind me. I love the ocean colors. In fact, when someone recently said, "What's your favorite color?" I said ocean, because that comprises everything. All the shades of blue, shades of green, and I love that. So I get a lot of inspiration when I go to the Mediterranean, such as Greece. And this summer I was able to go to Sardinia, Corsica, Malta, which also had beautiful architecture and buildings. And so all of those colors always, and the flow of the ocean and, you know, the sea creatures, all of that influence. I make a big bowl that I call a sea tortoise. So because it has the colors of the tortoise and the colors of the sea. So all of that does inspire me. And also, you know, like, for example, I've traveled to Jordan and spent some time there, and in the desert in Wadi Rum and in Petra. So I've taken the colors of Petra and made some beautiful pieces, and so I call them a Petra collection. So those colors always are inspiring, and the colors of alabaster, that was something I was into since I've been back from the Mediterranean this time. So I guess all of those things influenced me. And then you did ask about that long 2.5-year solo journey,
Right.
which I started in Dakar, in Cape Town. Dakar, and my goal was to go all the way to Cape Town by road, and I was by myself. So I did not think it would take this long, but it took 2.5 years. It was a very long journey, but it was a magical one. It's one of the most interesting, probably the most interesting thing I've ever done. And going through Africa in that way, I definitely get inspiration from the colors of the animals and from the plains, you know, the mountains, and certainly from the colors of the people's clothing. I'm always checking out colors and different color combinations and layers of colors. So all of that inspiration and lushness and desert and barrenness and vibrance of clothing, all of that always influences my work.
Now we can see some of the pieces behind you, and it looks like a lot of the inspiration from your travels are in the colors that are behind you. And I was wondering if you could maybe explain some of those pieces back there, because they look beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, you see a couple of tall vases, and those are definitely watercolors. I just had a couple who purchased one of them and asked me to make a slightly smaller one so they'd have a pair in the same colors. So those would definitely be considered all of my watercolors and Mediterranean colors. I also do a series called the Emerald Coast, because down here on the Gulf of Mexico, we are considered the Emerald Coast once you get to Alabama, Florida, all of that coast. And it has very unique emerald colored water. For the United States, it's absolutely stunning. So I do a series of that with the color of the sand, and then the emerald water, and then the deep blue sea, the blue sky, and then the sunset colors. Also, what I'm doing right now, I do a lot of installations. So these pieces here are a series of pieces I'm making for an installation for a client's staircase. So there'll be 4 of these. And so we've got golds and blues, and then also some soft grays. And this one as well, I call these my Caribbean colors. I love them. Always with the blues at the bottom, and then I've got some golden yellows in here for the sunshine. And then, of course, the red at the top for the sunset or the sunrise if you're up that early. So that would be my Caribbean series there. And yeah, some of these other pieces I've started making cordial glasses. These are all the colors of the chakras. So they can be as a sage holder or a shot glass. I live in New Orleans. A lot of people buy them for shot glasses. So those are some of my latest creations as well.
That's great. So I know you also do a lot of home decor too.
I do.
Do you basically work with individuals so that they can make their homes look unique?
Yes, and I love that. My work is in a lot of galleries, and of course I love being in galleries, and that's wonderful. You know, and I also do custom pieces through galleries, so their clients want something custom. But I also love just working with my clients one-on-one. So yes, people contact me. And they send me a lot of random photos of, of what their idea is. Like they'll send me photos of their decor, their sofas, their rugs, a piece of art that they like, the colors they're thinking of. And we kind of go back and forth a little bit until I can narrow down what we're going to create, where it's going to go. And it's kind of like solving a puzzle, but the solution, the end solution is that you've got someone who's very happy and who's only been able to think of something in their mind, and then it's my job, my responsibility, my honor, to bring it to fruition. So I do love doing that. I love working with clients. No matter what things they send me, I have to gather it all together and make it into a cohesive piece of art. And then that art, as I always say, no matter how much money we all have, a little or a lot, we all have a finite amount of space in our homes or in our offices. So I'm always honored when someone uses some of that space to have a piece of my art. And it could be a piece that will be in their room they see every single day, or on their wall, or it's when you enter their office. So it's telling about them. And it's important that they like it. It's important that it shows who they are. And it's important that the people who are coming to see it like it and think well of my client. So I do feel a lot of responsibility when I do those custom pieces, but I love it.
Well, it shows through your work too. And I know you've been doing the work for the Louisiana Endowment of the Humanities for quite a while right now, right?
I have, I think since 2015. And they are wonderful. The Louisiana Endowment is a part of the National Endowment of the Humanities. And I was not familiar with what they do before I started working with them. And they give awards every year in all the different humanities. So there's film and there's books and schools and every single different kind of humanities. And then someone who's given a lot to the arts as far as their time and their dedication over the years, and who's made a big impression and a big statement. So I get to make awards for all of those people for every year for all the different categories. And it's magical. It's very special to be able to do that. And it's from all over Louisiana. So there's places and people and things you certainly don't know about, but I get to learn about when I'm making these awards for them.
Now we're going to show a clip of you in the studio working, but I know that you have a 5-foot blowpipe there, and the furnace can get up to 2,300 degrees. And I know you have to be pretty strong to really blow the glass and really get it out of the oven, but yet the touch is very delicate. So you have to be very careful in what you do. So before we show the clip, I was wondering if you could just, set up the clip for us and so we know what we're going to see.
Sure. And I meant to bring the blowpipe into the room. I guess I'm not sure how I would have gotten it on camera, but it's a 5-foot blowpipe. And to make those big pieces, it's about this big. So it's pretty big because it has to have globs and layers and layers and layers of glass on it. And so, yes, you've got this piece of glob of glass that is molten and moving. It needs to remain moving or it will crack and break. So you're always working with the idea of keeping it hot enough to where it won't crack, but not getting it too hot to where it loses the shape or collapses or it's ruined. So that's what you're always working with. And yes, it's a 5-foot pipe, but you can't hold it close to the piece because it's so hot. So you are holding way back on the handle, like holding a broomstick and putting something really heavy on the broom part and trying to hold the handle and work with it and create a piece. So it's a little bit crazy. So that clip was actually here, and it was the patron party. Hence, that is why I'm dressed up in that clip. Usually when I'm blowing glass, people always laugh because, I look nothing like that when I'm blowing glass. It's a hot, dirty job. And even though I've washed my hands a million times, you see bandages and you see dirt, wax, all kind of things on my hands from the studio. So that's what the clip is. And I think with blowing glass, it's really interesting now because many people have seen a show called Blown Away, and it shows people, it's a reality show based on blowing glass. So people have a much greater understanding than they used to about the mechanics of it. So there's parts of blowing glass that are very exciting, and there's parts that are like everything, that are like watching grass grow. So the beginning is kind of exciting. You're dipping in and gathering up this glass. Then you're melting in your colors. They're on a table, they're made of glass, and you're kind of layering them and melting them. And then there's a lot of parts in the middle where you're just kind of cooling it, blowing it, letting it get a little bit cooler so you can dip it in again and get another layer. So you've got a lot of that, and you can't see what it's going to be for a while. But the clip that you have, the end part, that is the exciting part. That's the make or break. You've got one shot. So in that one, I'm making a big platter, like one of these, but bigger. It was like this big and very heavy. And I've been working on it for an hour, so you're a little bit tired. But when you go at the end, you are not going to drop your piece. Nothing will stop you from finishing that piece. Not a burn, not if you're exhausted, not if you're about to drop it. You do not mess up your piece. So you'll see me there at the end, and you heat it up into the other, the glory hole is where I'm working in and out of keeping it hot. And so that is also 2200 degrees. So I've got it in there, and I've got to get it hot enough to where I can spin it. But if I get it too hot, it's going to collapse on itself and be ruined and be a throwaway. So you'll see me getting it hot enough, and then you've just got seconds to spin it like crazy, get it big, and then you've got to dip it down so that it'll get a flutter. If you just keep it big, and I think it'll show that in the clip, it'll be more of a platter. So I think
let's take a look at the clip now so we can get it in so the audience can see. So here's Julie Juneau, internationally renowned glass artist, and here's her working in the studio. Let's take a look. So Julie, how strong are you? I mean, you are strong, you know, and you're spinning that. I mean, you have to have some strength to do this.
Yes, you do. You have to be strong to make big glass, yes.
Right.
But it's really fun, and I enjoy making big things. I make a little bit of everything because my clients love everything, but I do love making those big pieces. It's crushing when they don't work out. If at the end something happens and they don't work, or they break, or they crack, you're crushed. But it's so rewarding when they do.
How long is the time, you know, from, you know, when you start blowing it to the final product? About how long is the entire process?
To make a really big piece of glass, it's about an hour, and you don't want to spend more. You want to move it along, because the longer you're there, the greater the chances are of something going wrong, getting cool, cracking, collapsing. So you want to just stay extremely focused and move that piece along through all the different stages. And so that's what I do. So yeah, you're intensely focused during that time. You're, you know, and then you take a breath when you put it away in the oven, as we did. You put it away, and it goes into an oven that's 950 degrees. And it stays for about 24 hours, and the temperature comes down gradually. If you just took that piece and just put it on the floor, it would explode in a matter of minutes, because it would just crumble, because it cannot take the differential in temperature of going from 2100 degrees to going to, you know, 100 degrees in the room, if that.
So you have done a lot of work, not just, you know, locally in New Orleans, but, you know, all over, you know, the nation and internationally. But I also know you you love to travel, and I know you have a motto about no guts, no glory, which is definitely something that you use in blowing large pieces of glass, because sometimes, as you said, comes out, sometimes it doesn't, and it can be crushing at times. But tell us a little bit about your time that you spent, about your trip across Africa and volunteering with the International AIDS Trust, and just the stuff that you like to do on the side.
Oh, okay. And when you were talking to No Guts, No Glory, a couple of 3 years ago, I got to run with the Bulls in Pamplona. And that was definitely a no guts, no glory kind of a thing. That was amazing. I just happened to be there, and I was passing through, and it was my birthday, and I was like, oh my God, it's July 7th, I'm running at the Bulls. So I did, and I'll always remember it. It was very exhilarating. It was terrifying beforehand and during, but then exhilarating, of course, when it was over. So yes, I guess that exemplifies some of that. And the Africa thing was amazing. You know, it was before cell phones, and so there was no research that could really be done. and I wanted to go to, there was many countries that were in flux, and I wanted to go to a continent that is always in flux, and I wanted to see it now, because that's the best that we can do when we travel. We cannot change and go back to the old days in different places, but we need to see it now because things are always changing. So I flew into Dakar, and my goal was to make it by road across the continent and all the way down to South Africa, to Cape Town. And that's what I did. And I told everyone I'd be gone 5 months. And then I counted the countries that I'd be passing through on my way, and I thought I'd be gone 8 months, because there were 16 countries. But that was ludicrous, because those countries are giant. We never see the continent of Africa exactly side by side with North America. It's giant. And so I have a lot of energy, and I was moving pretty quickly, 1 night here, 2 nights there, kind of thing. And it's huge. So that was one of the most interesting things, as I said, that I've ever done. And I was alone, and I was often alone all the time. There were no foreigners, all the time when I was traveling. For maybe 8 months at a time, I wouldn't see somebody, from someone else. But it was amazing, and I got to meet lots of people, and I got to see countries, how they were then, and some of them fell as I left, kind of over my shoulder. There was some coups and things going on. It was before the troubles in Rwanda, and it was after Mandela had been freed in South Africa. So there was just a lot of history that was very important to me, and a lot of music and a lot of art, and just the people. They say that you go to West Africa to see the people, Central Africa to see the animals, and Southern Africa to see the geography. And that's a broad statement, but there's a little bit of truth in all that. There was just interesting things everywhere I went.
That's great. Besides getting inspiration through your travels, do you also get your inspiration through attending other art shows, or do you attend other art shows? Where do you go? What are some of the other individuals maybe that gives you the inspiration, with the other artists that you know of? And basically, when you're putting a piece together, how do you really personalize it?
That's a good question.
Let's start with the art shows first. Yeah.
I do go to art shows. I love art shows. I was talking with someone the other day. I attended a lot of art shows before I ever became a glassblower. So I'm always interested in things that are organic and creative and unique, and that are made by someone's hand. And I love to meet the artist and be able to talk with them about their inspiration and how it was made, or just to meet them and see that this came from this person. So yes, I love all of that. And so yes, I travel to other art shows. And when I do a lot of art shows, and when I do them, and I do a lot out of state, and mostly in the South, like Texas and Jackson, Mississippi, and along the coast of Florida. And so when I do travel to those, I don't always get to walk around because I'm alone working, and so I'm not always walking around. But I do just go, anytime I'm anywhere and there happens to be an art show or a market or a flea market, I love to go and check out and see what people have. And I have lots of treasures from around the world. I have seal tooth from South America, from Chile, Santiago, Chile, just things that I have found. And certainly in Africa, I've collected a lot of super cool things that were from markets and from people, and things that people made from Rio. You're making me think of all these different things. And so how do I love to look at glass. I look and see what other people are doing, or I look at sculptural things, and I look at pottery, just to see the different color combinations and to see the shapes that people are doing and to see how they're using them. Oh, we're putting this on the wall, we're putting this on a stand, we're turning this over. So to see different unusual ways that you could make something, and as you said, make it your own, or make it tailored to your client's needs. I get a lot of grants from my clients, what they need, or they tell me what shows to, or they tell me what shows I should be in. So I'm always grateful for people giving me input.
Now, I know we're getting into a really good time of the year, and people are thinking about gifts and what to get, for family, friends, or themselves. And how can people get in touch with you? I mean, do you have what's your website? What's your contact information that people get in touch with you to get some of this beautiful glass that you've been making?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. And also my phone number. People often call me, text me, contact me in that way, or email me and tell me what they need. And then we, talk it over and create whatever they need. Right now I'm doing 25 bowls for a big function, and they're using those all as centerpieces. So I'm just completing that. So, and then I do a lot of Christmas corporate gifts too. I have glass balls, and a lot of times we'll do them in the company's colors, and they'll give them out as Christmas gifts. That's a very affordable thing to do if you've got 100 different clients that you need to give a little something to, or 50 clients or 10 clients. So I do anything that somebody needs me to do. I find a way to say yes and do it. So the way to get in touch with me is Juli, Juli, Juneau, spelled like Alaska, Juneau, and my number is 504-615-2113, 504-615-2113. And I do have a website. Everything is not on there because it's changing all the time. But my website is Nomad, like a nomad in the desert, NOMAD, collection.com, nomadcollection.com. And so under my name on Instagram and on Facebook, you can find me there as well. And so you can always message me. And you can always Google me if you need to find I'm female glass blower in New Orleans. I think I'll pop up in that way too. So I'm easy to find, and I would love to help people. So anything that you think, and my favorite thing is when someone says, oh my God, I've been looking for this forever. This is perfect. So I love to make those dreams come true.
That's great. That's great. And so in the short time that we have left, the very short time we have left, just some thoughts on what's coming up for you in the weeks, months ahead.
It's my busy time. So now I take off on July and August and travel somewhere, but this is my time. So every weekend there's a show. I've got shows in New Orleans, shows in Jackson, Mississippi. So I've got continual shows that I do every year, annual. So I've got a lot of those coming up, and I'm happy to tell anybody about those. They're here in New Orleans and in Mississippi. I've got Ocean Springs, Alabama, and Destin. So right up into the holidays, kind of crazy around here.
Well, thank you so much, Juli. And for everybody who's watching, if you're looking for that something special for your home, your office, or just a special gift for someone, contact Juli Juneau, and I'm sure she'll be happy to work with you to make that something very special and very meaningful. So all the way from New Orleans, we thank you for joining us today, Juli, and we wish you the best.
Thank you, Lou. It's always great to talk with you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you, and thanks.
Okay, well, say hello to everybody down there from everybody up here. And I'm Lou Goldstein. Thank you for watching Focus On. And until next time, stay healthy, stay active, stay productive, and I'll see you next week on another edition of Focus On. Have a good night.
Every day,